For those in the audience getting to know you for the very first time, care to share where you were born?
Oh, yeah, I was born in Miami, Florida, in Overtown, Town Park, the Ghetto. The Ghetto.
And is that where you were raised as well?
Yes.
And what ages do you think you were raised in Overtown specifically for?
From what I can remember, since I was born all the way till I was like 13, 14.
And then where'd you end up moving to after that?
I moved to Orlando for like a year, and then I think I moved back to Miami like after that year. Yeah.
And where do you reside these days?
Everywhere. I mainly be in Houston now, but I live in Orlando now. So yeah.
And okay, so you moved to Orlando, then you moved back to Miami. How long do you think you reside in Miami for before you start
Back and forth.
going to Houston and back to Orlando and things of that nature?
Okay, so probably when I came back, I was probably like, 15. So from 15 all the way to 21 years old. Yep.
And that's when you moved to Houston?
No, I didn't move to Houston. I work in Houston. I live in Orlando.
Got it. Okay. Now, curious here, what were the reasons for the moves from Overtown at 13 to Orlando, then back to Miami at 15?
Boom. It was something where it was like, at first, I didn't know what was going on, me and my sister. So it was me, my older sister, April, my mom. We were staying in Overtown. So then, out of nowhere, she was like, we're about to move to Gainesville. I'm like, for what? I was too young. I don't know. They didn't want to tell me, so we just packing. We don't want to move because what is in Gainesville? I never heard about that. So we ended up packing up the whole house just to not go. And then we ended up moving to Orlando because my mom's sister ended up convincing her to go to Orlando. So we moved to Orlando. We was miserable. And then my sister moved back with her dad in Miami. I moved back in with my dad in Miami. So that's why we came back.
And what was that really like, growing up in Overtown for you? Are you able to describe that?
Well, from a kid standpoint, I had fun. I was outside playing football, on my bike, on my ripstick, on my scooter. Out late at night, I'd go to my cousin's house on my bike, come back. Yeah, doing a little hood rat kid shit, that's about it.
Cousin on your mother's side of the family, father's side?
My mom's side, yeah. I was more closest with them, so.
And what do you think the top point for you during your upbringing in Overtown was? What do you think your highest point was, or your most positive moment growing up in that area? And if what you just described was, then that fits the answer too.
I can't remember. I don't know.
Now, what about on the opposite end of the spectrum? What was the bottom point for you while you were in Overtown?
The bottom point?
Yes, was there a low point you faced or most negative moment growing up in that area for you?
It was a lot. I ain't gonna lie. Our house was like tearing apart. Like, we had an upstairs, downstairs, and it was like a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. And what it was, we had a lot of roaches, like hella roaches. We had roaches in the living room. They used to have field days in the kitchen. Yeah, a lot of them was in the rooms too. And when we go upstairs, there was like a big hole in the ceiling. So we had to put pots and pans like on the steps because the water used to leak out, all type of stuff. Yeah, our house was like literally tearing apart like as the years was going on. And yeah. It was only a matter of time before it was time for us to move out, so we did.
How did you deal with those roaches back then?
You don't deal with them. You just learn to live with them, I guess. I guess that's probably dealing with them. So, yeah.
Now, just dealing with all of that, mentally, has this been something you sought any professional help over?
No.
Why not? Some people do.
It kind of like builds character in a way, so ain't no help needed. I thugged it out and I'm good, so it's cool.
Now, how were you able to survive that upbringing? What do you think was the key to your survival in that area? There are some that don't make it.
So as far as like afterwards, like moving out afterwards,
Could be that if you'd like.
how that was, it was like we moved, we ain't like where we was at, and also we was getting like mistreated at my auntie house, so it was just like, my mom was like the best thing for us to do was to live with our dad, so we left with our dad, and I was staying with him for like damn near majority of my life, so yeah.
And then at 21, you end up eventually moving back to Orlando.
Yeah, I moved to Orlando with my mom because of stuff that happened in Miami. Me and my dad living situation.
Now, just the culmination of your upbringing, whether it was in Miami or Orlando or just period, there are some people who say things like, don't know if I'll make it to see the age of 18. Maybe 21, for example. Did you have any of these thoughts yourself during your upbringing?
Yeah and no at the same time, because it was just like, even though based on like our area that we was living in, like there'd be shootouts, like in the like our townhouse was like in the middle, and the shootouts was happening like across from each other. So it's just like duck low, lay down, that's about it. But when stuff like that was happening, I was never like outside for that long. Like my mama knew when to bring me in the house. So, and I wasn't never really like around the wrong crowds for real. So when all that stuff was happening, yeah, I was in the house. Being in Miami, like coming from Miami, we all, like, it's a dangerous ass part. So that's like something we all think about, but you just gotta stay out the way, stay prayed up. That's it.
That description there of the townhouse and the shootout, was that in Miami as well, or was that in Orlando?
No, that was in Miami, Overtown.
So, knowing what you know now, hypothetically speaking, what would you have said to your younger self back then, if anything?
Somebody just asked me this. What would I say to my younger self back then, living in Overtown? I mean, like I said from before, like, in my world, like literally in my world, everything didn't seem that chaotic, but then it's just like, when I go back and think about it, it's just like, oh shit, all that really was happening for real. But it was just like, you feel me? I'd probably just tell myself to continue like staying out the way and don't get in the mix of everything that's going on, because it was getting bad.
Anything else you want to mention about your upbringing, or a question you weren't asked? People want to know about that.
I think that's about it. Most people don't really expect, like, people from back at home that see me now that haven't, like, I guess know where I was located at exactly, like where I was from, which is Overtown. They don't expect it because I guess the image that they see on Instagram, I don't give where I'm coming from, which I don't have to. Like, I don't gotta be loud, none of that, ghetto, none of that. It come out when it come out, but I know how to keep my composure, so yeah, I hold myself good.